Welcome back to the Hardware Unbox podcast for another podcast that we've recorded live here in Taipei, Taiwan, after the conclusion of Computex. We're here with Steve, and we're going to talk about AI.
I did not realize my contract stated that I had to appear for a second podcast. I thought that was Balin only, but Balin's done his he's done his first podcast. Now I've got a second one, so we're filming 3 podcasts, Tim. That is crazy. We're only hours away from going to the airport.
That's right.
So my energy levels at an all-time high as I get ready for this overnight 10-hour trip. Well, it's more than 10 hours, isn't it? It's like a 9-hour flight with everything else tacked onto it. Anyway, what I'm trying to say, guys, is I am pumped to be here. Very excited. There's a plane on cue. We'll be hopping on one of those shortly. I can see it. How cool does that look? It looks like it's flying just above the buildings. Can you guys hear that? This is like some ASMR. If I wasn't talking, it's like airplane ASMR.
Yeah, it's probably very faint there. Well, at least we hope so, so people can still hear us.
Yeah, it sounds great to us.
And it looks cool. It's very cool.
Now it's echoing off that building, so it sounds like it's still coming, but it's going.
Yep, so very, very cool.
We'll leave all this in the podcast.
Yeah, people would have clicked away already from that stuff. They would be like, oh, what's this?
I mean, if that didn't captivate them, then boy.
What are they in for?
Not good.
All right, so I want to talk about AI in this episode because it's the Computex AI show. AI, everything. Nvidia did an AI keynote. AMD, I think, mentioned AI the most in their keynote, even more than Nvidia did. Intel talked about AI. And I think we both came away from the show with a very similar impression that we're just not buying it just yet. We're just not believing the hype at this point. And a lot of the demos, I think, have been pretty underwhelming, pretty disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, look, not an AI or industry expert by any stretch of the imagination. I play Fortnite and benchmark GPUs, so
yeah.
I don't really know what that makes me qualified for at all. But yeah, I mean, look, there's probably really good use cases for AI, and we've seen ChatGTP, and as I said, I'm very tired. Other things being used that are kind of cool, and I'm sure there's some businesses and industries that are taking advantage of that, and various other workloads. So it is a thing. We're not saying it's not impressive and it's not going to really change the way we go about things, but at least for our use case, home users, gamers, all that sort of stuff, it's a big old non-event.
Yeah, and a lot of companies are trying to just, jump on board that hype train. And while some of the use cases and a lot of Computex was on the business side of things, companies want everything now to be AI without yet proving that AI is useful or wanted for those use cases.
Well, yeah, the PC, the personal computer, is no longer the PC anymore. I struggled to find the letters PC by themselves. It was now AI PC or AI blah, 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 blah PC. Or
it's pretty crazy how many booths had that on them.
It was pretty wild. Yeah, we walked in and obviously we'd seen the 2-hour Nvidia keynote beforehand, the night before. So we kind of got some sort of inkling as to what we could be in for on the showroom floor.
Yeah.
And the second we went through those doors, it was a completely unrelated company. It was advertising the AI PC. I think it was like Nux or something.
Yeah, I don't know.
And then the next one, Acer, AI PC, and Asus, and so on and so forth. And all of, how many you and Balin did a head count on the last podcast? Was it 4,000 or 5,000 MSI employees?
I think it was about 5,000.
Yeah, all 5,000 MSI employees had AI branded right across their backs on their sort of corporate branding. So yeah, there was a lot of AI stuff. Everyone was trying to get on board the AI hype train. And I think the vast majority of them don't actually know what AI is or what qualifies as AI.
That does seem to be a big problem. There's a lot of renaming of things into AI. So things like screen recognition or just simple algorithms or even hardware that shouldn't have AI at all, like a case. They're suddenly now AI.
Unless the case was developed by AI.
Well, does that even qualify? Like, I'm sure lots of things are developed by AI. Like, if I have a sandwich from McDonald's and they've used AI to figure out the best combination, is that an AI burger?
In a way, it's more of an AI burger than one that I would have made.
Well, that's true, but...
Though some do question my intelligence and perhaps would suggest that it's Anyway, carrying on.
Yeah, it's been pretty crazy to see a lot of companies really not being able to answer like any in-depth questions about the AI-ness of their product. Like whether it's, so is there a machine learning model behind this? Like what's it been trained on? You know, what's the hardware? How's it running the AI inference algorithms or whatever? And a lot of companies just very wishy-washy about those sorts of things, like either not really. I didn't get enough confirmation from most of the people I spoke to that the products actually were AI. And I'm defining AI to mean, using some sort of machine learning algorithm where it requires training, it requires models, there's inference, those sorts of things. Not AI in the sense of, it's an if-then statement coded into the app somewhere. Like it has to be actual learning, not just algorithms. And yeah, most companies just could not give those sorts of concrete answers about training or any of those aspects at all, which makes me think that they're not really AI products.
It would have been so good if we had have got someone from Team Group that knew who we were. So our contact from Team Group wasn't there when we went past the booth. We probably weren't going to do a video anyway because they didn't have anything truly new on display. We try to go and find new or interesting things. So Team Group have a lot of great products, but none of them were particularly new for the Computex trade show, at least that we saw. Though we did see what were advertised to be new products. And I would have loved to got someone to explain those new products to us because there was AI DRAM, so AI DDR5 modules. Not sure on that one. There was AI M.2 SSDs. What else did they have there? Did they have
that AI? I think there's other types of AI SSDs in memory as well.
I think there was 3 products they had that were just existing products with AI added to the name. And I said to Tim, look, it could have been a really smart marketing move by them to sort of, as us Aussies say, take the piss out of this whole silliness of AI and just picked one thing like DRAM or an M.2 and sort of called it the Team Group Cardia AI A440. So it's not really an AI branded product, but they're just saying, and I'm doing quotation marks for those of you around the AI that are listening to this as a podcast. But that could have been funny. Just, take the complete piss out of the whole AI branding stuff and just pretend, our stuff is AI. But they didn't do that. They tried to jump on the AI bandwagon and convince you that they've now got AI SSDs and DDR5 modules that don't know what they do.
Yeah, they straight up don't have AI capabilities.
I don't see how they could.
Yes, I don't see it either, unless it's some sort of software-based thing, in which case it doesn't actually require the hardware at all, so it's kind of a bit of a joke. But honestly, I think those sorts of products, and it's not just Team Group, like I don't want to pick on Team Group because like literally every company was doing this. We saw AI cases, power supplies, you name it, everything.
Yep.
It seems like it's a little embarrassing to me. Like I feel like in a few years, once the true AI stuff is separated from the fake AI stuff, all of those companies that are trying to jump on board the hype train and create AI products when they're not AI products, it's going to look really dumb and silly. I think it's going to reflect poorly on those companies when you've got, we saw some Nvidia demos that we'll probably talk about later of legitimate, what I would class as legitimate AI features. And then you compare that to an AI SSD and it's just a complete joke. Like there's no way that in 5-10 years, that is what AI is going to mean. It's going to mean legitimate, machine learning type algorithms. And as you say, I think like taking the piss out of it, being a bit funny with it and sort of laughing at that and sort of saying, oh yeah, everyone's on the AI hype train now, but we actually are a company that doesn't make AI products. We're a hardware, SSD and DRAM vendor. Like, we'll just make a bit of fun out of this and call this our AI product so that, I don't know, suckers can buy it or something. But yeah, to go and see like these companies legitimately trying to jump on the hype train, I don't know. It's not going to look great, I don't think.
Yeah, it's very silly, almost childish even, because you get really great, strong brands like Noctua
Yeah.
There was no AI at their booth that I saw.
That's right. Very rare. Very rare.
We had a full booth tour. They had some cool stuff on display, but there was no AI to be seen there. So I think, and Noctua are a company that take themselves seriously, not too seriously, but they take themselves seriously. They take their products seriously. They take what they do seriously. And you can take them seriously when they don't just jump on whatever random bandwagons come their way for a trade show. So I think that's good. And yeah, we don't want to, again, pick on Team Group because they do actually make very good products. But yeah, it's a very, I don't know, lame, probably lazy is a better word, like marketing tactic to just slap AI on existing products and with no real, like there was no explanation on most of the products at the trade show. They'll have a little plaque that tells you this is a new product or a prototype product, what the specifications are, what it does, if it does include an AI component, what that does, how they're leveraging AI to enhance the product. These AI SSDs and AI DRAM, it said AI, but there was no reference to what that meant or what it did.
Exactly.
So it's a bit lazy and a bit silly. So hopefully we don't see too much more of that. But yeah, the trade show was an eye-opener for how just, crazy they got that stuff these days.
It felt like it reached overhyped levels. Like there's been products that I've been impressed with in terms of like AI capabilities. Like I think, generating images, while there are a bunch of concerns that we're probably not going to talk about in this podcast around generative AI content, the technology is genuinely impressive. Like how it works is very cool and interesting. And we've seen, like I said, Nvidia demos. I was trying out some like song generators and they work surprisingly well. And you're like, okay, that's pretty cool. But when you start to get to like the overhyping level, it almost devalues the legitimate products. Like there's people doing actual AI work and they're being almost undermined by products that are not AI. And it's going to get to a point, I feel, where consumers are buying AI products. Like Microsoft, Intel, AMD, they've all been talking about the AI PC, the new platform for CPUs with NPUs in them and all that stuff. And I feel like if they're not able to deliver actual tangible benefits from AI that are legitimate AI, there's going to be like a bit of a pushback from consumers. Like they're going to realize, I've been sold AI as like the future of PCs, but now I'm getting AI in my hands and it's not doing all that much. And I feel like it's almost a very similar scenario to ray tracing. Like ray tracing is going to be a technology at some point that's widely used across games, but if you debut it in a way that's not well integrated, doesn't work well, is very slow and performance taxing, and it isn't what consumers want in terms of gamers. The original ray tracing games is on the most part not what gamers wanted.
At least it was ray tracing though.
At least it did work, exactly.
Well, and it was the thing.
But it kind of, you start going backwards almost in terms of the perception that people have. They start using it and it's like, oh, that's what ray tracing is. I was sold this, but what I'm actually getting is not as good. And it takes a long time to reverse those sorts of opinions. Whereas if ray tracing debuted and it was like awesome straight out the gate because the hardware was unbelievably powerful, or some scenario where that would happen, which is, for game graphics is pretty unlikely that it would debut and work really well, right? But if it did, I think people's perceptions would start off a lot better. I feel like that's probably going to happen with AI when people buy, I don't know, new CPUs, they've got an NPU, they're trying to use new Windows features and they're like, oh, that's AI?
Yeah, it's going to be baby steps for sure, even with genuine AI applications. Yeah. Nvidia basically said it themselves when we quizzed them about it, because we did see one of their demos that was really impressive. Tim had a lot of fun with it, I had a lot of fun watching Tim. And it was, again, quite impressive, but for an actual AAA game to ship at that level, it's really not happening I think with the current level of technology that we have for game developers. It's almost like you need AI to develop those AI characters, especially if there's hundreds of them in a game, because you're talking about basically novels for each character to make them lifelike.
Yeah, so to be specific, we're talking about Nvidia Ace here, which I'd seen, I think was debuted quite a while ago. Like it's not just fresh for Computex, it's been around for a while. I saw, some of the marketing videos and those sort of things showing off what it's like, and I was like, okay, whatever. Like I wasn't that impressed. I saw it, I'm like, cool. When I tested in person, I was like, wow, this actually works surprisingly well. And I was I was trying hard to break it. Like I was being very dumb, very silly with it, just doing all sorts of different angles. And we did get into a few loops that the game was sort of, you'd have to think outside the box without the Nvidia employee telling you what to do there. There's obviously a lot of work there. But then, as you say, like he showed us the type of work that needs to go into create that AI character, the backstory that needed to be created, all the different parameters, the coding that goes into just one character. And it was a lot of work. And that's not even counting, the hardware that's required to run it. I don't know whether this was too related to the AI stuff, but the demo did not run well. Like it was like a 30 FPS sort of experience.
Yeah, very low FPS.
And those sort of things. So I don't know if that's like the AI's hurting performance. I imagine it hurts performance a little bit. But yeah, like you just see those sorts of things and the amount of work it would take. I think the demo had 3 or 4 NPCs that you could interact with that were AI driven. I mean, Cyberpunk has hundreds of NPCs.
Yeah, it's just one little lobby area.
Yeah, and the amount of, I got into this loop in the game where I was meant to be getting a room number from the person and I was accidentally talking about getting a key card. The character was going along with that, but there were no mechanisms in the game to deliver him the things he needed to give me the card. And so with all of that, it's a long way off. Like it's a cool demo, but you sort of sit there and you're like, even Nvidia was sort of saying, I think they were saying their expectation was to begin with, there might be one AI character in a game that's providing a hub type experience.
Yeah, or just snippets of AI elements in the game. So that's sort of where I was going with it. So sort of like ray tracing, it's done to a degree where, I think it's on. And then, it's got more and more impressive as they've been better, games have been better optimized to use it and the hardware's become more powerful as well. So those things sort of happened in tandem. Whereas, with the AI in games, before it's truly impressive like what we saw in that demo or even more so, I don't know, 10 years or something like that we're probably looking at. It's hard to say more than that. It's difficult. Yeah. It's a long way off.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that game developers now, who, games take about 5 years to make or more these days, game developers now are probably unlikely to be looking at integrating that technology in games that they're starting to develop now. Mm-hmm. And so you're talking about the next gen of games after those games, which might be, as you say, 10 years away from now.
We'll start to scratch the surface of...
Exactly. And, I feel like I'm not anti-AI. I'm not I don't want AI in games or we'd never benchmark AI or never dive into those things. But there needs to be actual applications and things to test that utilize AI before it's worth benchmarking and integrating that into our testing. Because there's, we could go and take, UL's AI benchmark, who makes PC Mark and all those tools. I think they do have an AI benchmark now, and run that and go, X hardware is better than Y hardware because AI number is better. But until there's, a legitimate application that we can test to see the performance differences in AI, it's just not something we would include. And it would have to be an app that's actually run on the PC as well, because things like ChatGPT...
It have to be a game that you play.
Yeah, it'd have to be...
it has to be something you can actually use the hardware for.
Yeah, not a demo. It's just not worth... I think there's a risk of misleading customers and people that watch our videos if we're sort of pretending that AI is this big feature that needs to be benchmarked, if that's not actually the case. Mm-hmm. If people are trying to sell, AI gaming devices, but there's no actual AI benchmarks, we shouldn't just be predicting the future and putting in some random AI benchmark to say, hey, in 5 years, that's what it's going to be like. I think our testing philosophy has always been current generation stuff that's available now.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's like testing ray tracing and making recommendations for the first generation hardware based on, AMD didn't even have ray tracing. Was the ray tracing support of something like an RTX 2060 worth paying a premium for? In my opinion, it wasn't.
I would agree with that.
The 6GB graphics card wasn't very powerful. Today, it's pretty well useless for all forms of ray tracing. It's actually probably borderline usable for ray tracing at anything above 1080, for rasterization performance at anything above 1080p medium to high. So aged quite quickly, certainly not a great example of what ray tracing has to offer. And in my opinion, ray tracing didn't truly, I want to say get good, but in a nicer way. Probably around RTX 3080, I would say, that level of performance.
Yeah, that's when you could turn it on and not have to worry as much about
the performance hit was less of a worry. That's in my opinion anyway. So yeah, probably don't want to get too into the ray tracing rabbit hole on this one. We'll stick to the AI rabbit hole.
Yeah, and I think at the Nvidia demo there was quite an interesting contrast between the stuff of the future, like the ACE demo, which who knows how long away that is not currently shipping technology, and then G-Assist, which was their currently available or soon to be available AI assistant technology. And that was...
We haven't really talked about that, have we, personally?
I was not that impressed.
Okay, no, neither was I. G-Assist was like, this seems forced. Like,
yeah,
you're
trying to find something to...
Yeah.
Yeah.
They look, sort of like what we saw with DLSS, they might be able to turn it into something that's a must-have feature or at least a very interesting feature. But right now it's a bit of a nothing burger, very clumsy, not something you're going to want to use when gaming. Yeah, I think the best way to put it is it just came across as a very forced feature.
Yeah, I thought it was, the concept of having some assistant that tells you information about the game, it's not a bad idea, but when they were demoing how it actually worked and was used, especially for the finding information from wikis about like how to do certain things in the game, I feel like there was two issues. One was that I feel like I could have done that same level of Googling and research at a similar speed. Like by the time you're typing in the long query that you need to type in, you can generally Google things with a few fewer keywords and find the information, click through the website. I felt like there wasn't a huge efficiency advantage, which I feel like an AI assistant is really about trying to improve the efficiency. And on top of that, like I actually like researching, Googling, scrolling through pages to find content, and you might learn other things along the way. Like you find the information you're interested in, and then because you're on a web page, there's the other context, the links,
learn something else.
You learn other things. Whereas the AI it kind of simplifies a task. Like I kind of think it's like building a PC versus buying a pre-built. Like there's nothing wrong with buying a pre-built, it works well, but I find a lot of fun spending hours building a PC. And I kind of have the same thoughts about researching things online. Maybe I'm just an old school, old fogey that's like not up with the times with AI agents and those things, but I enjoy doing that.
No, it's a really good point though. Now that you mention it, that happens more often than not with me, where there's something I want to work out, whether it's gaming or just something in the workshop, how to use a welder or whatever it might be. And I'm like, I wonder why it does that or how to get it to do that. And you Google that, you watch a YouTube video, and then you're like, oh, that answered my question. But hey, that also answered 3 other things that I was wondering about that I didn't actually know that I needed to be wondering about or whatever it may be. So whereas this, it was really, it was a bland sort of feedback that you got. Yeah, it did come back with an answer or whatever to your question. Whether or not it was an accurate answer, again, you have to work that out when you actually go down and execute whatever it's saying to do.
Yeah.
But it was a very direct answer, and there wasn't too much more to be learnt. So
yeah, and it was pretty similar on the performance tuning side of things as well, because G-Assist had the ability to modify some of the game. Well, it can modify game settings, but you need to restart the game. So that was immediately like, okay, that's probably not going to be that useful at the moment. But it was also able to modify power targets and things on the Nvidia GPU side. And that was more impressive and more usable. Like you could ask it natural language questions, and it would, if you say things like, oh, optimize this for 60 FPS using low power, it could do that. But as well, like it's kind of obfuscating what's actually going on, which again, for an enthusiast like me, I'm interested in learning about the balance between frequency, power, and performance. So by modifying the sliders that you would see in a normal application, it's kind of a bit fun. You mess around, you see what different inputs do to the output. Whereas with an AI, it's all doing it for you, and that's great for people who don't want to learn all those things. But for someone like me who's very inquisitive, I love learning about things, how things work. I love messing with dials, and you give me a piece of hardware, and if it's got like 20 different dials on it, I'll play with every single dial to see what they all do, right? AI removes all that. And it feels, again, like, as you say, like a bit bland, a bit stale. Like, yeah, it's cool for some people, but I almost put in the category of like the one-click optimized settings in GeForce Experience. It's like, that's good for some people, but I would never use that. Like, I like going through and changing the settings, seeing what they do, optimizing the performance myself. And I feel like that's a big part of the PC experience that's just a bit sanitized with the that AI feature. Whereas ACE worked really well, and I could see myself using that.
Yeah, I think it's true of any feature or product. doesn't take too much convincing. If it's a good product or a good feature, you don't need endless demos and convincing that it's something you want. You see it straight away, you see it in action, like, holy crap, that's really interesting, that's really cool, I want that. Whereas, yeah, with G-Assist, they were really trying to impress us with it or prove to us that it was good, and it just, I don't know, again, wasn't that impressive, but some of the other demos were a lot more impressive, and it didn't, like the second you started playing that game and talking to the NPCs, I was straight away like, this is pretty impressive, like this is really going to advance gaming. This is really going to enrich, especially single-player storytelling. It's going to take it to a whole new level beyond anything we could have really imagined. Unfortunately, though, I think that is a long way away from happening, despite the fact that we do have a working demo. But again, as we've seen with a lot of things in the tech industry, the difference between a working demo and then a shipped working product is just huge.
Yeah, exactly. And I think after seeing the Nvidia Ace demo, which as we talked about, I think was quite good, the contrast between that and the AI stuff on the show floor was massive.
Yeah.
Like the difference in quality between a company making an actual AI product that might be usable and you look at it and you're like, whoa, that's really showing me something, to then going and seeing an AI SSD and an AI case that there's no explanation why it's AI in any way. It's almost like that hype, it's even more overhyped. Like you see that and you're like, oh, there's just something there's just too much hype here. I don't know whether it's a bubble because I don't really follow the AI space that much, and I'm sure there's people that are much more clued up on whether things are or aren't bubbles. But it feels like when you've got many companies trying to shove an AI keyword into products that aren't AI related, there's no impressive demos of what this tech does, and then you can easily contrast that to companies making actual AI demos. That can't be good. That can't be good for those companies in the industry. It's almost like, I feel like we've seen this many times, like with blockchain or with 3D TVs and even like VR. Like VR is a decent technology. It just hasn't taken off to the levels that were hyped, I don't know, at a Computex maybe 5 years ago.
Yeah, whether just expectations weren't met there for user adoption or just didn't, whatever the reason is, but that was definitely touted as being the next thing. Like you just wouldn't game without a VR headset. That's what we were hearing.
Yeah, and then users get their hands on VR headsets and they're like, there's a few drawbacks here that really hurt the experience. But again, like, I don't want to say that AI is like, blockchain's kind of a proven like garbage technology, like it doesn't really do anything. I think that's been proven now. So I think it's not in that category. Like AI will be a thing. Like there's no doubt about it. It has genuinely useful use cases. It will be a thing, just not to the level that we've seen this year. And I'll be very interested to see whether at Computex in 2025, whether it's like another level or whether it's, these companies are going back to, oh yeah, that whole AI SSD thing didn't work, so now we're just making normal SSDs.
Yep, be very interesting. I don't know which way that's going to go, but I'll be interested to be here and find out.
Yeah, well, Computex renamed one of their categories from consumer PC to AI consumer PC or something along those lines. So from a vendor perspective, they seem to be very interested in continuing the whole AI trend. But again, we'll sort of see. And it's interesting, even companies were asking us our opinions on AI as feedback, as in like, where do you see it? Like, are you sort of buying into it? And we were, I don't know, maybe not giving the answers that they were hoping for in some scenarios. So yeah. All right, I'm sick of AI. Let's throw that in the bin for now.
Thank you.
And we'll talk about the other things that have been happening at Computex, the good stuff, the behind the scenes things maybe about, the non-tech stuff that's been happening at the show, some of the things we've been eating and doing. Not that we've been doing heaps that's not the show, but there has been a few things that have happened.
Well, we have been doing heaps of eating.
That's true. And I feel like you have quite a few thoughts on the big meat meals that we've had over the last few days.
Well, I mean, there's a few different interesting experiences. I mean, when you plan and book an event like this there's 4 of us, so, I had to book 4 flights, make sure that's all gone through smoothly. We had to have a connecting flight for the way up here, so there's a bit of a running around and making sure everyone meets up and, we get going. But we flew over here, no dramas, no delays, no problems. As soon as we get here now, we buy SIM cards so we can communicate with one another. It's very cheap to buy an unlimited 4G plan, so that's very
Yep.
handy. So we got our SIM cards. I think really all it requires is maybe a passport for that.
I think so, yep.
But that was good. So we sort of hit the ground running, got to the hotel, and we checked in one of the rooms early so we could just, because we arrived at 6 in the morning or something like that with
Very
the flight.
early, yeah.
So we were here pretty early. I think the flight might have been 5 in the morning. Anyway, it doesn't matter. We were here early. We checked into one of the rooms early. There was 4 of us, so we weren't really having any naps or anything, but we were setting up computers. MSI, it's really cool how they help us out. So they provide 3 desktop systems for us so we can edit and do all the stuff we need to do. Make thumbnails. Tim and I have had some late night thumbnail sessions, which have resulted in some interesting thumbnails that you may or may not have seen by this point in time. But yeah, we stayed at a really nice 5-star hotel. I'd booked 2 rooms and I requested months in advance that the 2 rooms be next to each other or very close on the same floor, which the hotel manager said, yes, we can accommodate that, and that was great. So we check into one room on the 23rd floor.
Yep.
And then at 3 o'clock, our second room was ready, and that happened to be on the 11th floor. So
Not ideal.
All the boys' luggage and their PCs and everything were on the 23rd floor. We had to get that to the 11th floor. So I wasn't too happy about that, since I'd organised for that sort of situation not to happen, and they'd confirmed that it wouldn't happen. And as we were sort of dealing with that, MSI turned up to just welcome us and bring a few more things that we needed, power cables and stuff. I think we needed 1 more power cable, didn't we, and a couple of Wi-Fi antennas. So the team, the local team, there's about 6 of them. They're all really nice people. They turned up just to welcome us and see if we needed anything. So that's really nice. That's great. And we told them about the room thing, and then half of the team just disappeared, didn't they?
Yeah.
We were talking with them. They were showing us a few new products and things like that before the show. That's always exciting. So we got some hands-on stuff. We filmed Cam 2 in the hotel room, so that was awesome.
That worked well.
Bit exciting to see that before the show even started. But half of the team, while we were doing that, just disappeared. So the room was full, and then half of the people disappeared. And halfway through the demonstration, I interrupted and said, where did the rest of the team go? And they said, oh, they've gone to take care of the room situation for you. So, oh, okay, we didn't expect them to do that. And the next minute the phone rings in the hotel, because we tried to solve the problem, didn't we? And
Yeah, we did, and they said no, basically.
They basically told us, tough luck. Not a cheap hotel, which I was pretty unimpressed by. And again, I had the email threads to prove that the hotel manager had told me that they would accommodate our requests that we'd made well in advance. It wasn't like we rocked up and thought, we're entitled to 2 rooms side by side. I went out of my way to plan to make sure that was a possibility before booking. And yeah, so we went downstairs and they were like, well, tough luck, we're booked out, there's nothing we can do. So we told the MSI employees that, and moments after they disappeared, somehow they made something happen.
It was solved very quickly by the MSI employees.
The MSI employees solved that very quickly for us, which we were very, very appreciative of, because it would have been a nightmare traveling between the 11th floor and the 23rd floor constantly, especially given how long the elevators take to arrive and then how slowly they move.
That's right.
They seem like very slow elevators. But anyway, they solved that, so that was great. But midway through their demonstration, we had to go from the 23rd floor to the 11th floor, because that's where both rooms were now located next to each other. And once that little hiccup was sorted out, it was a great time. Everything worked well. We worked between both of the rooms. We got plenty of content done. I was really happy with how the content turned out this year. Balin did a great job with the editing and the filming and all that sort of stuff, and these microphones worked out pretty well, much more convenient than how we've done it in past years.
Yep.
So that was all good. And then food.
It's been a lot of food. A lot of food.
I won't go through all of the dinners because, well, it was a lot of food, and it was pretty full on. But we did have, I guess we'll just skip to last night's one, because we got to the end of the show and there's 4 of us in total. So we've got Chris, who's merch minion from the Discord server. He helps with a lot of merch and other behind the scenes content. So we thought it'd be good to bring him to help with crowd control and all that sort of stuff when we film, man the A-roll camera, which he's done a great job of. So 4 of us in total. And we got to Thursday night. Friday night.
One of the nights. It's all a blur.
It is a blur. Yeah, Friday night, right?
Okay, I think so.
Oh man, I am just so spaced out. So I think it was Friday night, which would be last night. This is embarrassing. And we were all just buggered, if you can't tell. And I just thought, I haven't got the energy to go to a party or do a big thing. I said, how about I just shout you guys dinner? Pick a place and I'll shout dinner. We'll just get whatever we want and sort of celebrate the end of our Computex coverage, which it was pretty much the end of. It was the end of the show anyway. We've filmed some podcasts and Q&As since. But yeah, so we went out to a place that I don't know the name of. It was really nice. And Balin loves his barbecued meats. And I think the guy, well, we got kicked out in the end, didn't we?
Yeah, we
Politely.
we're ordering constantly, like a lot of food, because this man here eats a fair bit. So yeah, we were ordering pretty much the whole night. And by the time I think we had just finished the very last thing that we had ordered, and we weren't planning on ordering anymore. But the guy was like, "You guys,"
and we weren't stopping though, right?
Yeah,
like it wasn't like we were ordering, sitting around for half an hour, and then ordering again. Like the food was coming, and we were eating it.
Yeah.
It was getting cooked, and we were eating it, and it just kept coming. And he's like, "You want more?" We're like, "Yeah, do that all over again."
Yeah. So that was very, very tasty food as well. But yeah, I think we ate more than the average customer at that place when they're sorting out their bookings. So
the first time we asked for all of that food again, he looked quite surprised. And then when we got to the end and we said, could we do like 4 more dishes? He was like, more?
Yeah.
And Balin's like, yeah, Balin's got like a giant Taiwanese beer in his hand. He's like, yeah, go more. And then we did more after that. And that's when he politely told us that they had someone else coming and they really appreciated all we had eaten and spent with them. But sort of, because it's a very small place, isn't it? There's 3 tables in there. So yeah, we occupied one for multiple hours while we ate a lot. But yeah, that was great. It was good fun.
Taiwan's got awesome food in general.
It's
a really good place to go for food. Like pretty much everywhere that we went was, just delicious stuff. And there's such a variety of things as well. Like we gravitated more towards Japanese barbecue this time, but there's plenty of like great hot pot stuff. You like all sorts of Asian cuisines, all that stuff is here. You don't even really need to touch the Western stuff, which obviously you can get here as well. Mm-hmm. So yeah, there's just so much variety, and it's as well very affordable. So like the quality of stuff that we were having compared to back in Australia, so much cheaper for the same sort of quality, and very impressive most of the time. So yeah, Taipei City, can't recommend it enough for food. It's a really great place to go. And as you say, like a lot of the places, they're just like small things. They could be in like just an alleyway and it delivers really great food to like 4 or 5 tables, just delicious stuff. So plenty of places everywhere to go. It's pretty awesome. Yeah,
it's seriously impressive. And the range of drinks and things you can get as well is just incredible compared to Australia. Again, the drink selection's very good, whether it's alcoholic or non-alcoholic. Balin probably won't be doing any alcoholic drinks today because he had a fair few drinks, I thought, last night, but he assured me that he barely drank. But didn't pull up too well this morning, did he?
Not to burn him too hard.
No, he's not here.
When he said that he drank a little bit, I was a bit surprised because I'd seen him and the amount that he had drank, and I was like, that doesn't sound right.
That looks like a bit of alcohol, Balin. But then we were on the MRT. He was a bit sway. He was also being a bit lippy. He was.
The MRT's the metro trains. In case you're wondering.
Yep, metro trains, and he was giving everyone a bit of lip. He was being a bit chatty, which is a little bit unusual for Balin. So I could tell he was quite happy. And this morning we went down to breakfast. Balin loaded up a plate full of food. He sat at the table looking at it for 5 minutes and then decided, I'm going to the room. So I think Chris ended up polishing off his plate. And we had a great breakfast, didn't we? We were down there for about half an hour.
Yeah, the buffet breakfast at this hotel is very nice. And just in general, like this is obviously very inside stuff for us because, most people probably don't care. But since last Computex, they've built a hotel that's right next to the convention center, which has been very, very convenient for us.
Yeah, it's been great.
Usually in Taipei, the weather is like 30 degrees Celsius and very humid. So you do not want to be traveling very far. And if you do, you want to be traveling in as much air conditioning as possible. So from our hotel to the convention center was under 5 minutes, which was just a game changer for making the content at the show. So the fact that since they've moved the show to this new area of Taipei, and they've built all these new hotels, it's going to be much better for covering the show in the future.
So
we'll
good.
definitely be staying in the same place, which is where we're filming now. Like this outdoor area is just beautiful. So
yeah, I think you timed it basically going from the desk in our room to the door at the center, and then if you'll turn around and go back, it's like an 8-minute round trip.
Yeah.
Whereas previously from the courtyard where we were on the one MRT stop, that was about 40-minute round trip, something like that. So
yeah, there's a lot of walking. Like you see that it's one stop on the train, but then it doesn't factor in that the trains are quite far underground, so you have to kind of go down these winding paths and then wind your way back up at the other side. So being able to walk directly was
and even
much
coming
better.
out of basically the walk from the hotel room to the MRT station was about 2 or 3 times longer than what we do just to get. So yeah, it's been great. We'll definitely stay here again next year, and yeah, hopefully we have another great show next year with maybe a little less AI, and hopefully no other sort of hype train replaces it, and we can sort of get back to looking at PC hardware.
Yeah, I'd say so. But yeah, I think it's gone really smoothly this year. Probably one of the, like we'd agree, it's the best show that we've covered this so far in terms of like the stuff that's been shown, but also the way that it's gone for us in terms of making content.
I don't know if it's the best show for that, because the AI stuff was frustrating and a bit ridiculous. Like, there was a year where Intel released high-end desktop CPUs and announced them and demoed them, and I think it was the first year we saw Threadripper, or the second year we saw Threadripper.
Yeah, that's true.
So there was a lot of exciting mainstream desktop motherboards, a lot of high-end desktop motherboards, CPUs, demonstrations. I think there was even mid-range Radeon and GeForce GPUs, so there was just so much to cover. I think that was probably, in my opinion, a better year for covering PC hardware than this year.
Yes,
this year was
that's true.
This year was certainly good, but I think for us as a trip, our travel over here, our stay here, our experience here was by far the best I've ever had.
Yeah, exactly. I think we've got a bigger team now, so we're not sitting in the hotel rooms editing
bigger team
at night and those sort of things.
We've optimized and improved the way we go about it every single time we come. And I think we've got it to a pretty good spot now. There's not too many things to tighten up on that'll make the experience a bit better.
Yeah, it's more external factors now of tightening up that would improve the trip. Like on the first day, it took at least 20 to 30 minutes to get into the convention center because of the lines. For some reason, the Taiwanese president just likes to rock up on the first day.
Yeah, first thing,
first day. So they have to. There's more security on that day. It takes a long time to get in.
De Bauer was stopped by security when he was already on the showroom floor.
Yeah.
And so this is Roman from, well, I suppose, you either know him as De Bauer or Thermal Grizzly or one of the many things he's involved in.
Yeah.
But he was stopped by security and asked to take a photo on his phone, on his camera, because they wanted to make sure that his camera was a camera and not some sort of explosive device. So De Bauer's looking real sketchy out there.
Yeah, that was pretty interesting because that did not happen to us.
No.
And we were on the show floor at the same time. But the crowds and things were insane. Like, if they're expecting even more crowds next year, they're going to need to build a third convention center to house everyone.
Yep.
Or I think that even there could just be some optimizations on the show floor.
Ask MSI to bring half as many employees.
Well, they definitely should bring half as many employees, but there were booths that had like stages where they'd be interacting with the crowd like in the walkway. So if you wanted to, they were doing giveaways or whatever, and if you wanted the giveaway item, you had to stand blocking the path for people getting to some of the biggest booths in the show floor. That was a real issue with that booth that was like right near towards the front. It was a company that we don't really cover, but they basically had a stage there, and constantly it was blocking the walkway. So things like that could be optimized so that, you can't just put a stage where people can block things.
Yes.
But apart from that, like it's a pretty smooth oiled machine these days in how it works. And yeah, it was good to see that there was a lot of eateries and places to go around our hotel, so you don't have to deal with the crowds at Nangang, which is the hall that's there. And you boys smashing the Starbucks and enjoying those.
I heavy dieting when I get home.
Yeah.
I don't like to exercise too much, but I'll be jumping on my air assault bike, I think, for at least a few weeks to burn off the kilograms because I don't normally consume too much sugar, but boy, oh boy, I consumed some sugar this week. Because you just get into it, right? You sort of whatever's available, and we're having a good time. And yeah, there was Chris did quite a few Starbucks runs, and
Yeah, it was nice. I found some...
I'm feeling podgy.
There were some honey teas that were really good, and yeah, it's just a great place for drinks, but unfortunately a lot of the drinks are very sugary.
It was a
so
blowout
it's hard to
week.
avoid.
Yep.
So that'll be fun going back home. But yeah, we fly back tonight very late, so we're basically just killing time at this point. So making this podcast is almost like just winding down the clock until we can go to the airport and deal with all that stuff. But yeah, the weather's been nice, the food's been great, good show, more interesting than last year. We've got additional help that's made the show really breezy and easy to manage. So I think it's been a pretty good success for us, and yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed all the coverage that's been on the Hardware Unbox channel about the show, and have seen some interesting things from all the different companies that we've been covering. So yeah, hopefully people have enjoyed that, and we'll do some more coverage throughout. Well, the next 12 months are going to be pretty busy, so you should be expecting quite a lot of stuff post this show. You'll be getting straight back into doing some content and yeah, getting on the grind and making things really nice. Okay, normally in this part of the podcast we talk about our boring lives, but we've already talked about them.
They've been too exciting.
They have been too exciting.
We've ruined the we'll fix it next week when we go home and be really boring again.
Exactly, but yeah, no real need for the boring life segment. It's pretty much just Computex. And the previous podcast episodes have probably talked about some of the other things that we've been doing, what's been going on. So
too exciting.
Yeah. We'll be wrapping up this podcast basically. That's basically what I wanted to get to, is the podcast is pretty much finished. So yeah, thanks to everyone who's been watching our Computex coverage and has enjoyed the podcasts over the last couple of weeks, because these have been banked at this point. So this will be going out a few weeks after the Computex show. We'll be back to the sort of normal podcast very soon. So yeah, thanks for listening. We've got our video feed if you want to see the lovely plant matter that you get in the Taiwanese hotels, these purple flowers and whatnot that we've got here, so check that out. The audio feed as well, the usual places if you want to just get the non-video version, which has all the content. There's no graphs or anything, it's just us talking in the video, so yeah, there's that. But anyway, thanks for listening. We'll see you in the next one.